In a few moments, we're going to be entering to the Kodesh Kodashim of Purim. Yiratzon that the limud should be l'refuat Tanya bat Hoda Margalit, Yosef Yair ben Aviv Chava, Harav Sivan ben Sima betoch kol shar cholei Yisrael. To enter into Purim, there are three different questions that I wanted to raise on the Chag, on the holiday that we're going to be experiencing in just a few moments. I was driving my kids to the bus this morning to take them to school. And my son Adiel said, Abba, you have to make sure not to miss any word when we're reading the Megillah tonight. When he was in Gan, 4 years old, he learned that when we read Megillat Esther, different than any other Torah reading that we have throughout the year, you have to hear every single word. So the first question is, why is it so essential to hear every word of the Megillah? If you don't hear a word, if you don't hear that it said Vayomer, what's going to happen? You get it, you know what's going on. So you missed the word, like it doesn't really make such a big effect, it doesn't make such a big difference. Why do we need to hear every single word of the Megillah? The next two questions are questions raised by the Sfat Emet. So in the year 1877, the Sfat Emet quotes a pasuk from the Megillah which says, Ubechol yom v'yom Mordechai mitalech. In Perek Dalet in the Megillah, it describes that after Esther came into the palace, Bechol yom v'yom Haya mitalech Mordechai ladat et shlom Esther. Every day, on Sunday, and on Monday, and on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Shabbat, of every single week, of every single month, Mordechai would walk next to the palace to know what was going on with Esther. So says the Sfat Emet in the next sentence, Kol advarim anizkarim b'Megillah haya hakol letzorech hanes. The Sfat Emet says that in the Megillah of Megillat Esther, every pasuk is meant to be there in order to understand the great miracle of the Megillah. So the hidden question that the Sfat Emet is saying is, this doesn't seem to have anything to do with the miracle. That Mordechai woke up every morning after breakfast, whatever it was, and he would walk to the palace and see you like, Esther, are you doing okay? Seriously? That does not seem to have anything to do with the miracle. And so on this second question that we raised on the Megillah, the Sfat Emet says something so powerful. That he says, Ubevadai ze davar gadol me'od. The fact that Mordechai every single day walked to the palace to say to Esther, how are you doing, was a great thing. She'aya ke'arba'a v'chamisha shanim me'eti lakach Esther la'Achashverosh. Says the Sfat Emet, if we look at the years in the Megillah, Esther is brought into the palace in the 3rd year of Achashverosh. Then the Megillah says that in the 9th year of Achashverosh, Haman makes a decree against the Jews, which means something that many of us don't pay attention to. That means that Esther was living in the palace of Achashverosh, like the Sfat Emet says, for 4 or 5 years before the decree of Haman. Everything's fine. The Jews are walking around the streets in their businesses. It's all normal. The kids are going to school. And in every single day of those 5 years before the decree, Mordechai walks every single day, day in, day out, to know how Esther is doing. In the next words, the Sfat Emet gives a whole new idea on the Megillah. Mordechai halach bechol yom v'yom lirot shloma ba'avur ki hayta yetoma. She's a queen, but she's an orphan. And what made Mordechai great was not that he did not bow down to Haman. Fine, he did that, but many people throughout history did that. But Mordechai knew that there was a little girl who was an orphan, who was sad, and every single day he would go over and maybe give her a cup of coffee or a candy or whatever it was, but every single day, not once a week. Ubizchut zeh zachal hanes. So unbelievable what the Sfat Emet says. In the 3rd year of Achashverosh, Esther is in the palace. And in the 9th year, there's the decree. Why did we earn the nace? Why did we earn the miracle? Because there was one person who paid attention to someone every single day. Says the Sfat Emet, this might be the most important pasuk in Megillat Esther because it teaches that we earned the nes through the dedication of the daily experience of taking care of an orphan girl. And the last question to ask on the Megillah, the Sfat Emet says something very, very unique. Mashe kav'u ikara yom tov b'yom hamanoch. When did the miracle of the Megillah happen? On the day of the 13th of Adar and on the 14th of Adar. But we do not celebrate the day of the miracle. When we sit with our families and give mishloach manot and matanot le'evyonim, we're celebrating not Yud Gimel but Yud Daled. And we're not celebrating Yud Daled in the town of Shushan B'Tedvav, which means that the day of celebration of Purim is the next day. We're not celebrating the miracle of winning the war, but the celebration of the next day. And says the Sfat Emet, Zeh tachlit milchemet Amalek. The real war against Amalek wasn't the war. If the goal of the war of Amalek was the war, then we would be celebrating today Yud Gimel out of the Mukaf Choma, like out of Yerushalayim, and we would be celebrating Yud Daled in all other cities, but we're not. Because the war of Amalek is not the war. They're fighting against the next day. They're fighting about the continuation. They're fighting about the ability to stay consistent with our goals. And to connect all three of these questions into one idea. When I was sitting in the car with Adiel, and he told me that we have to hear every word, because that's the secret of this Megillah. What creates the greater picture is the ability to realize that every word creates the Megillah. It's not a conceptual idea of the fact that the Jews won. It's that every word and every letter and every detail revealed how we create the Megillah. The idea of the Megillah is that it's not about the big picture, but it's about the minor colors within the picture. And therefore, the second question of the Sfat Emet, what made the miracle is not the miracle of God saving us, but that Mordechai every day, b'chol yom b'yom, haya mitalech b'chatzar melech ladat shlom Esther. That before 5 years, every single day, Mordechai watched over Esther. That's why we earned the miracle. And the third question, we're celebrating the next day because that's what Amalek's fighting against. Amalek is fighting against our ability not to win, but to continue. They're fighting against our ability to not only be inspired, but to continue inspiration. And so, my bracha to all of us when we go into this day of Purim is that we can understand that I was in the land of Israel 2 days ago. And when we were there 2 days ago on a Wednesday night, we got to dance with kids from broken homes. And it's called Neve Michael. We were dancing with them. And it was an incredible, incredible night. And in the morning at 7 o'clock, I got up and I left the dorm that I was with 17 kids. And one kid that I met 12 hours before runs over to me and says, Yair, are you coming tomorrow? It doesn't mean a lot to him if you could come for a night. It means a lot to him if you could come tomorrow. The blessing of Purim is not our ability to experience, but our belief in ourselves to use an experience. And when we sit in this Purim and get to levels of connection to Hashem that we've never had before, the question we ask ourselves as we sit through the experience is, can we recognize that our greatness is to demand of ourselves to be like Mordechai, to make a consistent decision of what we do with the inspiration in the moments that we will not be always inspired after Purim, and to continue Purim into our next step, into the next day, into our daily lives, is the real challenge of Purim. Purim Sameach.